More now on General Electric with two members of the General Assembly. Republican State Representative Brenda Kupchick is from Fairfield, and Democrat Matt Lesser is from Middletown. And folks, thank you for being with us today. Representative Kupchick, I'll ask you first, how devastating is the loss of General Electric to Fairfield?
Well, I think that the perception of it is obviously devastating to the community. When word got out yesterday, I was leaving a business advisory council meeting in the town, and my phone just started to blow up. People calling and emailing about, G's leaving for Boston. A lot of people thought that potentially they might go to Westchester, which they felt would have mitigated it a little bit because people would have still been in the community. Or
they could have commuted.
So there was a lot of concern, a great deal of concern.
Representative Lesser, last year there were some folks in your party who were saying that it was greed, that GE should be paying a little bit more in taxes. And why do you think they're leaving? Do you think the taxes had anything to do with it?
Well, actually, there really isn't a mystery about why GE is leaving. They put out a press release yesterday saying exactly why they were leaving. I have it right here. And they list three reasons. They say, one, Boston has 55 colleges and universities. Two, they mention the workforce. And three, they mention Massachusetts investments in research and development. Not one time did they mention taxes in the release when they announced why they were leaving the state of Connecticut.
So you think the taxes had nothing to do with the tax hikes of last year?
If it did, then they would have said so.
Do you believe that the tax hikes of last year had anything to do with their departure?
Absolutely. GE said in an email statement to their employees and publicly that they were very concerned about the tax implications. And for anyone to say that it's not part of the equation is just not being realistic. When those two final tax package bills were passed in June, or when they were brought up prior to the end of session, GE was very vocal. They were very vocal for a reason. They didn't want those taxes. And they said very clearly that it was going to have an impact on their decision making. And it really spurred the whole conversation. But what they did say in the coming months, and I met with GE in September in their corporate offices, was that it wasn't just those two taxes, the carry loss forward and the unitary tax, but it was also the fiscal situation in the state of Connecticut, similar to what Mr. Brendan was just saying from CBIA.
So what can the legislature do? Because now that the seed has been planted, other companies are going to think, I could leave as well. What would you like to see done in this next coming session, Representative Lesser?
Well, first of all, GE had the opportunity to move to Georgia or move to Texas. They chose not to move to those states. If, in fact, they moved to Massachusetts for tax reasons, they're going to be the first company in history to move to Massachusetts to get away from high taxes. The fact is Massachusetts has a 12% capital gains tax. We don't have anything like that in Connecticut. What does Massachusetts have to offer? They have the strongest public school system in the country. They've been investing in their higher education system. They've been investing in transportation and in research and development. We can do those things too. We could bring Connecticut schools back to #1 in the country. We could invest in our higher education system. That's what companies are looking for. They're not looking to move to Kansas to get away from taxes. That's not where GE moved.
What should lawmakers do to try to make it more appealing to businesses so that they won't leave?
Well, again, I said it was part of the equation, and actually Massachusetts, a lot of their business tax rates are lower than Connecticut's, but that is not the only thing. They are investing, as Representative Lesser said, in their transportation, innovation, education. Connecticut is very, again, having a lot of fiscal situations. We are not funding our pension and retiree health care benefits. They are way underfunded. We're considered one of the worst funded pension systems in the entire country. Those types of things send a signal out to businesses that this government is not managing their finances correctly. And they're going to come after businesses every year looking for money to fill the holes of these budgets. So we need to work together. You know, this sort of I think there's a lot of rhetoric that's been, passed around, it's a Republican, Democrat fighting. We need to come together as citizens of this state and be honest with each other, look at what our real problems are, and work together without all this sort of, hostility. Because at the end of the day, if we do that, it benefits all the residents in our state.
In terms of the way Governor Malloy handled the General Electric situation, how would you grade him in terms of letters A through F?
Look, I don't think that it's productive to put a grade. It's obviously sad whenever we lose employees from the state of Connecticut.
Did he do a good job handling it?
It's not really for me to say, because this is a business decision that GE made. This is not about the state of Connecticut. This is about a business decision that GE made. And GE isn't left the state of Connecticut. They have 5,700 employees in the state of Connecticut. We're talking about several hundred employees at their headquarters, but they're talking about as many as 5,000 employees who are staying behind. One way or the other, GE is going to be a partner in our state for many years to come. It's important that we invest in that partnership, that we see them as an asset. And yes, it's disappointing, and it's a blow to lose any employer. But let's listen to what they're highlighting as the priorities they're looking for, because I think those are important. Higher education, our workforce, investing in transportation in the future. They talk about what they look for. And I think it's really a disappointment that some of our friends on the other side of the aisle, rather than trying to invest in our future of our state, are trying to score political points by making this about a budget or about the governor.
How do you think the governor did handling this?
I think the governor could have done a better job. I also think some of the legislative leaders could have been a little less hostile, quite honestly. I mean,
to GE.
We've read the comments that came out afterwards from the President Pro Tem and some others saying that they're bluffing, take a few days off from your yacht. Those kinds of comments really aren't productive. They're not helpful. And I think it sends a message to businesses that government doesn't want to work with them. Businesses create jobs, let's just face it, and we need these jobs. And while our unemployment has gone down a bit, the high-paying jobs have been replaced by lower-wage jobs. And to me, that's not a real success. We need to work together. I really think it's important.
And a final yes or no question, is the state going in the right direction?
Absolutely.
Not right now.
Not right now. All right. Brenda Kupchick, Matt Lesser, both state representatives. Best of luck to you as you enter the next session. Thank you for being on Faces Day today.